the stories, the journey, the wild behind the scenes, and much more. I'm Dave Anthony, and I'm the host of From Garage to Stadiums. Content warning. This episode discusses sensitive topics related to suicide and may be triggering for some listeners. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, please reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline by dialing 988 or visit their website for immediate support. You mentioned the album In Utero. It comes out and it's got some hits on it, but it's a return to sort of I guess it's Kurt's rebellion against that over studioized Nevermind, but it's got some hits: Heart-Shaped Box, All Apologies, songs like Rape Me, Dumb. I mean, these are still sort of in that melodic kind of Kurt kind of way. What was it? Was it kind of that rebellion that was returning to a harder punkish sound?
Yeah, well, Kurt was very, he was very much wanted to be accepted by the indie and punk community. And he was kind of embarrassed by how glossy and popular Nevermind was. So he went back and made sure that the record was recorded by the coolest and best, I think, recording engineer of that scene, that community, who was Steve Albini. And he made a very straightforward, as he always did, recording. Unadorned, no fancy mixing tricks or anything like that. It was just raw, in-your-face rock music. And it does sound super brutal, which is what Kurt wanted. He wanted to, it was like Kurt's Get Back album. After, if Nevermind was like Abbey Road, this In Utero was like Get Back to continue the Beatles.
In Utero sells 15 million copies, solidifying Nirvana's dominance in the grunge movement. However, Kurt continues to struggle with drug addiction, depression, and stomach pain. On April 5th, 1994, Kurt Cobain dies by suicide at his home at the age of 27, leaving behind his wife, Courtney Love, and their 20-month-old daughter, Frances. Kurt's death sent the music industry into shock and set off worldwide vigils by Nirvana fans. Looking back on that terrible event, Michael, you spent so much time with Kurt. Any thoughts looking back on that obviously tragic ending?
Looking back, particularly thinking about Kurt's end, was that I noticed that he was signaling a lot. He would, say things that would, hint at suicide. And, he could be prone to melodrama. And so I discounted it. And I was pretty young at the time, sort of naive, hadn't really been around the block many times. And I didn't really pay any mind. And neither did anyone else. But in retrospect, you could see he was hinting at what he was going to do. And that was, very sobering. And I just hope, I hope there is never a next time that I notice that pattern. But if there is a next time, I hope that I can intercede somehow and make a difference in that person's life.
Some of the songs sort of hint at that pain. He had the stomach pain. There's a lot of reference to certainly to guns and things like that. So it was interesting that he was signaling that pain in a lot of what he did. Michael, looking back, do you have any other insights or observations that you'd like to talk about of Kurt's life?
Kurt really wanted to leave Aberdeen, not just physically, but psychologically, culturally. So people in Aberdeen were homophobic. He was outspokenly not homophobic. They were sexist. He was totally feminist. They were into metal. He renounced metal. And he wanted to leave all that stuff behind. And that was his whole thing. And so the irony of being portrayed as a lumberjack by Sub Pop was very galling to him. He wanted to be, his whole goal in life was to become more sophisticated. And he continually would befriend people who were more sophisticated than he was, starting with Chris Novoselic, who was bilingual, had studied abroad, was very knowledgeable about current events and things like that. Then Buzz Osborne from the Melvins, who knew about punk rock and politics. And later on, Courtney Love, a very cultured, sophisticated, well-read person. And he wanted to surround himself with people like that. And that's really crucial to understanding Kurt. Oh, and also all the people that he met in Olympia when he moved there, who were coming out of a college called the Evergreen State College, very more affluent, well-educated people his age who could teach him a lot about indie rock and other cultural things. So that was really important. Kurt wanted to expand and enlighten himself.